return to your homes. A curfew is in effect. Please return to your homes. A curfew is in effect. Return to your homes. Return to your homes immediately. This is your final warning. Return to your homes immediately. Return to your homes. Let's go! Return to your homes, or you will be consequences.
Notably in South Korea and Germany. Then came China's announcement that it plans to test all 11 million of Wuhan's citizens after a fresh outbreak in the city where COVID-19 originated. We'll ask about that and about not so great news out of Geneva. The World Health Organization warning that the new coronavirus pandemic may be here for good. And even if a vaccine is found, controlling coronavirus will require, quote, a massive effort. Does that mean replicating on a global scale what the South Koreans have done with draconian tracking of all citizens and an army of contact tracers? The high road to a dystopian future where we're policed in our every movement? Or are we talking about the path to liberation from a life of lockdown?
How hygienic is a banknote? The World Health Organization has warned not very. Germs can allegedly linger on a surface for 3 to 4 days. China has been disinfecting banknotes and ATMs, and its central bank is rushing to create the country's own digital currency. Russia has told banks to limit ruble notes in circulation and urged consumers and businesses to use digital payments. Is this the beginning of the end for cash? And is the world ready?
Imagine this every time you went out for dinner.
A quick temperature check, hand sanitizer, a misting of hypochlorous acid water under what looks like a human car wash, and off you go to catch up with a friend. Just this time, separated by an acrylic sheet. Is this the new reality for dining out?
As restaurants and bars slowly reopen, many are looking to reassure the public that dining out is safe. But what does safe look like? Well, there's lots of ideas out there.
Barriers seem to be a popular option, like these glass cabins in Amsterdam. Waiters wear gloves and transparent face shields and use a longboard to bring dishes to ensure minimal physical contact with customers. In France, large plastic cylinders are being trialled. One Plex Eat is currently priced at $170 a piece, but French company Citor says they're already in big demand and are ready to produce 10,000 units a week. The Chop House in Brooklyn has gone for partitions and personal protective equipment, keeping in mind dining out is still supposed to be fun. They've also installed temperature scanners at the door, which could become a common sight.
If you're over 99.6, the red lights will go on. Very softly, no sounds, we're not embarrassing people.
The spraying booth at this pub in Tokyo is another idea, though it costs them roughly $6,500 to install. A diner here won't come into contact with one single person, which could take some getting used to. Say goodbye to the paper menu. Please scan this code is the new norm in Italy, which allows diners to view the menu more hygienically on their smartphone. And phones could be key. Some restaurants are asking diners for personal details and phone numbers in case they need to be tracked.
It may become just another endemic virus in our communities, and this virus may never go away. HIV has not gone away, but we've come to terms with the virus, and we have found the therapies and we've found the prevention methods, and people don't feel as scared as they did before. And I'm not comparing the two diseases, but I think it is important that we're realistic, and I don't think anyone can predict when or if this disease will disappear. We do have one great hope. If we do find a highly effective vaccine that we can distribute to everyone who needs it in the world, we may have a shot at eliminating this virus.
It's nice easing back into old routines. Only now, with extra care. Let's do it for ourselves, for our loved ones, for everyone's safety.
Hurry up, let's go. Let's go.
And staying safe starts at home.
Nice.
From how we work and learn, to the little ways we find joy. If you must head out, take extra care. Making a small effort, being mindful, they go a long way to keeping us all safe. The health of all depends on each one of us. So let's work together, using new tools and keeping to our new habits to protect the people we love. At work, let's all be good team players.
Good morning. How are you? Good.
A little distance between us today will be good for us all tomorrow. A little care can protect the one thing that means the world.
So what separates the fourth industrial revolution from the third? Experts say the main difference is that technology is merging more and more with humans' lives, and that technological change is happening faster than ever. Consider this. It took 75 years for 100 million users to adopt the telephone. Instagram signed up 100 million users in just 2 years, while Pokemon Go caught that amount in 1 month. 3D printing is just one example of fast-paced technology in the fourth industrial revolution. The industry has gone from a business idea to big business, with 3D printer shipments expected to increase from just under 200,000 in 2015 to 2.4 million in 2020. Today, you can have a hip replacement from a 3D printed bone, or use a 3D printed bionic arm. Talk about blurring the line between humans and technology, right? This new era of technology is driving a lot of innovation. You can see in this chart the number of patents related to the fourth industrial revolution for things like 3D printing or AI has been climbing up and up since early 2000. Organizations are embracing new technologies to make their businesses more efficient, similar to how they embraced the steam engine during the first industrial revolution. But some companies and governments are struggling to keep up with the fast pace of technological change. Research shows innovators, investors, and shareholders benefit the most from innovation. The risk is that the fourth industrial revolution is making inequality, which is already a big issue, even worse. One study found billionaires have driven almost 80% of the 40 main breakthrough innovations over the last 40 years. That's a problem when the richest 1% of households already own nearly half of the world's wealth. Experts warn we are in a winner-takes-all economy, where high-skilled workers are rewarded with high pay and the rest of workers are left out. Studies confirm technologies like AI will eliminate some jobs and create demand for new skills that many workers don't have.
The term Fourth Industrial Revolution is coined by Professor Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. He claims that the Fourth Industrial Revolution will be more profound than any prior period of human history. To understand the idea of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, 4IR, or as some call it, Industry 4.0, we need to go back in history and take a look at the First Industrial Revolution, which started around 1760 in Great Britain, which was powered by the steam engine. From the late 1880s, the Second Industrial Revolution was notable for mass production, division of labor, and electricity. The Third Industrial Revolution, known as the Digital Revolution, took place in late 1960s, which in a few decades saw the invention of the computer and the internet. Industry 4.0 is a result of the fusion of technologies. The exponential growth of technological advances are merging the physical, digital, and biological worlds in ways that just decades ago was only possible in science fiction movies. Gene editing, new forms of machine intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, nanotechnology, and technologies such as blockchain and smart materials are profoundly changing the way we live, work, and relate to one another. Bernard Marr, author and speaker on business, technology, and big data, warns that the question is not if Industry 4.0 is coming, but rather how quickly it will arrive. As with big data and other business trends, he suspects that the early adopters will be rewarded for their courage jumping into this new technology, and those who avoid change risk becoming irrelevant and left behind. Connected machines and objects offer a great potential for a 4IR, and experts predict the number of connected devices that will be in use is estimated to reach 75 billion by 2025. The data obtained from these physical devices are then put through machine learning and artificial intelligence processes. As machines become more intelligent, humanity will also grow and become smarter. American author, inventor, and futurist Raymond Kurzweil says, "It's hard to think of any problem that a superintelligence could not either solve or at least help us solve. Disease, poverty, environmental destruction, unnecessary suffering of all kinds. These are things that a superintelligence equipped with advanced nanotechnology would be capable of eliminating." According to Kurzweil's law of accelerating returns, technological progress is moving ahead at an exponential rate, especially in information technologies. This means today's best tools will help us build even better tools tomorrow, fueling this acceleration. Although there are many people who are enthusiastic and want to learn more about IoT, blockchain, bioengineering, and AI, 4IR, portrayed in cinema and literature, have instilled in us a sense of dread at the thought of an AI going rogue, like in the movie Terminator.
I am a machine.
The blending of biology and engineering is another key component of 4IR that we are already witnessing. Biomedical gerontologist Aubrey de Grey says he believes that, thanks to imminent advances in technology, the first person to live up to age 1000 is likely alive today. But bioengineering brings new areas of concern and debate as well. A newly published paper has revealed that Chinese scientists have added human genes to the brains of monkeys. This did not sit well with other researchers in the field and drew heavy criticism for crossing the chimera line. Monkeys are far closer to humans on the evolutionary ladder than mice, and many feared that endowing them with human genes related to brain function could inadvertently give them a stronger sense of self-awareness.
We are wondering what is happening to the world. Everything is changing.
The very idea of human being some sort of natural concept is really going to change.
Our bodies will be so high-tech we won't be able to really distinguish between what's natural and what's artificial.
Inside our own heads is the most complex arrangement of matter in the known universe.
You might ask yourself, can we get to be superhumans?
The original Industrial Revolution was driven by the discovery that you could use steam engines to do all kinds of interesting things.
But that was followed by additional revolutions for electricity and computers and communications technology. We're now in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, which is bringing together digital, physical, and biological systems.
One
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
With the ability to visualize brain activity, for example, through a simple consumer-based EEG device, it gives us access to ourselves in ways that we've never before thought possible. It unlocks the black box that is the brain and enables us to really, truly be able to realize an identity that is aspirational.
There's now a scientific foundation for the effects of mindfulness on the brain, on the genome, on biological aging. And when the human mind does know itself, then you get the potential for a new renaissance that restructures itself in terms of our relationship to life, our relationship to the planet, our relationship to work.
We need a different economic model. And by that I don't mean capitalism versus communism. What I'm talking about is a shift in the system along the lines of the two big changes that happened in the 20th century, Keynesianism, with a much greater focus on health and education and the role of government working with business, and then a reaction against that in late century to neoliberalism, where the focus was on free markets, freedom of the individual, and getting governments out of the way. We need a shift to a new system that will allow us to meet the basic needs of every human on the planet, that will live within planetary means, that will be fairer, and that will be focused as its key goal, not on growth per se, but on maximizing human well-being. And history tells us that a values shift is triggered by creation of a new story about how we want to live.
I see the circular economy as something which fits very closely with mankind's goal to be innovative and creative and to always progress. We can use asset tracking, we can use IT, we can use 3D printing to enable this different economic model to recover materials, feed them back into the economy, and really to decouple growth from the resource constraints we have.
The reason we live in cities is not different today than it was 10,000 years ago. Even if we have got networks connecting us, we still want to have places where we meet in person. So this means the place where we work and the place where we live are much closer to each other, a city where we don't need to have big supply chains in order to produce things, where many things can be sourced locally thanks to 3D printing and robotics. So if we're able to do something to transform cities, to make them more efficient, then the impact can be huge.
Think about the prospect of getting rid of plastics. We must not only be inspired or informed by nature, but actually use natural organisms with which to design products and building parts. Only instead of varying material properties, we're varying biological functionality.
Design is critical today because it's the first signal of human intention. So the question of adding quality to quantity, it isn't a matter of simply circulating things that are potentially toxic. It's circulating things that are safe and healthy for all generations. So the goal is no longer, I want to be less bad, less monotonous, less unsafe, less unjust. It's really about a diverse, safe, healthy, and just world with clean air, clean water, clean soil, clean energy.
Together we are fighting to preserve our fragile climate from irreversible damage and devastation of unthinkable proportions.
Humans have always been using tools, but because of the recent advances in technology, we're beginning to have machines that can augment us in all sorts of interesting ways.
I was the first person in the world to be able to voluntarily move my legs while stepping in a robot by exciting the nervous system using electrical stimulators directly onto the spine. We believe that a cure will be possible if enough of the right people have the will to fast-track a cure for paralysis.
We take two things from the patient. First, we take a three-dimensional X-ray and we extract the three-dimensional data out of that so we can make a perfectly shaped puzzle piece. And then we also take a sample of fat tissue from the patient so that we can extract the stem cells out of those. And we use those stem cells with this three-dimensional scaffold that we fabricate, and after 3 weeks we have a piece of living bone that's ready for implantation.
Being able to use genome editing to understand the genetic changes that lead to cancer, and technologies like drug delivery, getting molecules into particular types of cells. There's a lot of excitement about being able to move much more quickly on this disease.
One of the things that I think is so essential to free and open societies is freedom of thought. And up until now, the conversation we've been having is around freedom of speech. Once we can access people's thoughts and access people's emotion, we have to create a space that enables people to think freely, to think divergent thoughts, to think creative thoughts. And in a society where people fear having those thoughts, the likelihood of being able to enjoy progress is significantly diminished.
We need to take responsibility at every level of society, from the individual and the personal to the institutional to the global, to adapt to these technological challenges and changes which are redefining what it means to be human, what it means to work, what it means to be completely embedded in this world.
People always ask me if I'm an optimist or a pessimist. The technology exists, but how do we get it and implement it at the scale we need at a price that people around the world can afford?
Even though we have everyday problems we have to solve, we have to find a way to lay the foundations for the innovations of tomorrow.
This is the place where robots meet. Look, you can see them here as slaves to logic. And this man on the hill comes to free them. Do you know who he is?
So I want to emphasize the purpose of Neuralink. Like, what's our goal? Our goal is to solve important spine and brain problems with a seamlessly implanted device. So you want to have a device that you can basically put in your head and feel and look totally normal, but it solves some important problem in your brain or spine. And the reality is that almost everyone over time will develop brain and spine problems. These range from minor to very severe, but if you live long enough, everyone's going to basically have some kind of neurological disorder, from memory loss to brain damage. But the thing that's important to appreciate is that an implantable device can actually solve these problems. I think a lot of people don't quite realize that. But all of your senses, your sight, hearing, feeling, pain, these are all electrical signals sent by neurons to your brain. And if you can correct these signals, you can solve everything from memory loss, blindness, paralysis, depression, insomnia, extreme pain, seizures, anxiety, addiction, strokes, brain damage. These can all be solved with an implantable neural link.
In the short term, Neuralink's BMI may be used to fix neurological problems and disorders. As Elon Musk has pointed out, over time, virtually everyone who gets old will suffer at least one, if not multiple, common neurological issues, such as memory loss, hearing loss, seizures, strokes, and brain damage, etc. With the development of Neuralink's device, these problems may be a thing of the past. Better yet, the integration of Neuralink's device with the human brain may advertently solve the artificial intelligence alignment problem by achieving a symbiotic relationship between humans and machines. This is because there are many cases where an AI and a biological intelligence could benefit from each other's actions, the AI receiving data from the human brain and the human brain receiving data from the AI. The benefit of this relationship would greatly outweigh the costs to both humans and AI systems. However, it is also very likely that AI systems and biological intelligences will at some point be in conflict.
I think the first bit of advice would be to really pay close attention to the development of artificial intelligence. We need to just be very careful in how we adopt artificial intelligence and to make sure that researchers don't get carried away. Because sometimes what happens is a scientist can get so engrossed in their work, they don't necessarily realize the ramifications of what they're doing. So I think it's important for public safety that we, governments keep a close eye on artificial intelligence and make sure that it does not represent a danger to the public.
Elon Musk has commented on the dangers of AI, saying it is the greatest risk we face as a civilization. However, in order to prove that Neuralink can solve this problem, two things will need to become clear. How does Neuralink achieve symbiosis with the human brain? And what are the side effects and potential drawbacks of this symbiosis? One possible downside would be that humans would lose their sense of individuality if we all interconnect our thoughts and ideas into the cloud. However, if we can continue to retain our individuality and use Neuralink in a productive way, the benefits far outweigh the potential risks. Worth mentioning is Neuralink's recent development of a device which connects people's brainwaves to computers to allow them to control machines. The device is able to read from and write to neural synapses in a person's brain using very fine needle-like electrodes that penetrate a person's cranium. This technology, already in use on animals, requires no invasive surgery.